So could you please tell me a little bit about yourself and your name and where your community is and how you got involved with the Catholic worker and what are some of your issues that you're working on?
So my name is Michele Narobit and I live in Duluth. I've been part of the Catholic worker and resistance communities for over 20 years now. And currently, one of our community members, who happens to be my husband, and two other Catholic workers have participated in a plowshare action.
And this has been going on. Explain to the younger generations what those actions are.
So a plowshare action, the first one started in 1980, was the King of Prussia, and basically what they did was they took Isaiah's prophecy, they shall beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into pruning hooks, nations shall not wage war against nation, nor study war anymore. And they took that in a symbolic but very real way to beat the swords of our times into plowshares.
Yes.
And so they did that by going to places where these weapons were either being produced or where they were being sent off to be used. And they, with a basic hammer, household hammer and blood, they symbolically showed what the weapons would do, which is to shed blood, and they symbolically began the conversion process of swords into plowshares by hammering on them.
Great, and you have some of these actions happening currently?
So yes, currently there are 3 people awaiting sentencing for the latest plowshare action, which took place last year in July of 2012. And it was Greg Borchi-Obed, Michael Lawley, and Sister Megan Rice, where they went to Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where this is a plant where they stockpile these weapons, these uranium-filled nuclear weapons. And they're also talking about building on a uranium processing plant.
Okay.
So inside this complex, inside this compound, they would then build another building which would be used to enrich uranium for more weapons. At a time when we're being told by our politicians that we will be cutting back on weapons.
Yes.
And yet we're building places and plants to increase the number. So this is a total violation of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which was signed back in the 1960s, where our goal was to reduce to eventually to zero, and instead we're building
Yes.
more. So it's a violation of that treaty which the United States signed. In trying to expose that by doing this plowshare action there, that came out in court. Ramsey Clark came and helped it because he was there for the signing of that treaty, and he testified as an expert witness pre-trial to see if his testimony would be allowed inside the trial in front of the jury. And after his testimony, even though he proved that this was what they did was in keeping of defending this treaty, and that their act was not illegal, but that the act of building this plant is the illegal act. After that was discussed, they said, no, your testimony is not relevant.
Oh, of course.
You'll be using your testimony in front of the jury.
How convenient.
Yes, how convenient. So, anyhow, they went to trial in May, and they were convicted of sabotage and of depredation of property. So, it seems that when they were asked, the judge wanted to release them pre-sentencing, and so the prosecutor then began to show his cards about how these convictions were considered. So they said no, they cannot be released pre-sentencing because these are violent crimes and crimes under the federal crimes of terrorism. And so they said, what the judge asked, what constitutes a violent crime? And the government prosecutor said, use of excessive force. So the defense lawyer said, okay, they used a can of spray paint and spray painted messages on the side of this.
Very violent.
And they poured their own blood, and they greeted the security person who came and saw them there, offered him bread as a way of breaking bread with a fellow human being who should also be deeply concerned about the destructive power of these things, and lit a candle and began to sing "This Little Light of Mine."
Wow.
So this was considered excessive force.
Wow.
And,
how interesting.
yeah. So
wow.
So they're considered federal crimes of terrorism, and they're violent. And so when asked, well, how can this be excessive use of force? Well, because they did over $1,000 worth of damage. Well, it gets better. So then they said, well, who determined that it was over $1,000 worth of damage? Well, they had to hire special people to fix the security fences. These security fences were broken months and months before this plowshare action happened, and they never used the money to fix them. Well, I don't know what they did with the money. What kind of corruption is going on down there that they did that with high-tech fences with these motion sensors and stuff were broken.
Sure.
And now they have to hire special people.
Well, it's easy to
fix
make
them.
up a list like that. I mean, for them. So, is the sentencing happening or soon to happen?
The sentencing will happen in January 28th of 2014. Actually, it's to their benefit at this point because the judge was looking. It seemed to be he was looking for a way to overturn the sabotage conviction. So he asked the defense lawyers, he encouraged them to write up motions so that there be grounds on which he might be able to drop the sabotage conviction. So he's actually overturning the jury's conviction.
So to wrap it up, what are your hopes at this point?
Well, our hopes would be that somebody would finally admit that what they did was both morally right and legally right, but that's probably not going to happen. So I think that if they were to be released on time served, that would be justice served. But that's probably not going to happen either. So I think something in between 8 years and time served would be wonderful.
Great. Well, best luck with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.